Resolution 2231 expired on 18 October 2025. From that date, it ceased to have any legal force or operative effect. All measures, mandates, reporting requirements, and mechanisms established pursuant to the resolution terminated and ceased to have legal effect. There is therefore no legal basis for the Secretary General to submit reports, for the Secretariat to brief the Council, or for the Security Council to discuss this issue under agenda item non-proliferation. The Secretary General report and today's briefing by Under Secretary General Mr. Gallo violated the Secretariat mandate. Any attempt to continue the implementation of Resolution 2231, whether by claiming to rely on the Note 507 established practice or any other procedural argument, is legally invalid. It is a blatant misuse of Security Council procedures and authority. Iran's position on the so-called snapback mechanism has also been clear and consistent. It has been formally communicated to both the Secretary General and the President of the Security Council and has been supported by China and Russia. The E3, namely France, Germany, and United Kingdom, had no legal standing to invoke the so-called snapback mechanism. They failed for years to fulfill their commitment under the JCPOA and Resolution 2231. They then supported unlawful military attacks against Iran, including attacks on Iran's IAEA safeguard peaceful nuclear facilities. A party that has materially breached its obligation cannot invoke rights arising from the same legal instrument. Accordingly, the E3 have no legal or procedural basis to assert any claim against Iran under Resolution 2231. In September 2025, there was no consensus within the Security Council, and the Council was therefore unable to take any decision. The Council's inability to act does not validate the E3's claims. Under international law, an unlawful procedure cannot create legal rights or obligations. Iran categorically rejects the politically motivated allegation made today by France, UK, and US regarding its peaceful nuclear program. Their claims are a deliberate attempt to distort Resolution 2231, misrepresent the facts, and misuse the Security Council for narrow political purposes. The root cause of the current situation is well known. It lies in the United States' unlawful withdrawal from the JCPOA on 2018, the continued failure of the E3 to fulfill their commitment, and the unlawful military attacks carried out by the United States and Israeli regime against Iran, including attacks on IAEA safeguard nuclear facilities in June 2025 and again on 28 February 2026. These attacks violated Article 2 of the UN Charter, the fundamental prohibition of the use of force, and seriously undermined the global non-proliferation regime. The President of the United States publicly acknowledged and boasted responsibility for these acts of aggression. The E3 openly supported them and therefore has no credibility when making accusations against Iran. Iran has remained responsible state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons since 1970. Iran has consistently rejected weapons of mass destruction. Its nuclear program has never been diverted to military purposes and has remained exclusively peaceful under the most extensive IAEA verification regime. Yet, instead of condemning and holding accountability the United States and the Israeli regime for their unlawful attacks on Iran IAEA safeguard nuclear facilities, some Council members, particularly France, have sought to shift responsibility onto the victim. I also reject the unfounded accusation made today by the representative of France, UK, and Bahrain on the situation in the region. Rather than condemn unlawful aggression against Iran, they choose silence. Rather than defend the UN Charter, they shifted responsibility to the victim. Their double standard have deprived them of any moral and legal authority to lecture others. The Security Council failures to uphold its responsibility has reinforced impunity and encouraged further violation of international law. The United States and the Israeli regime bear full responsibility for the consequences of this unlawful act and must be held fully accountable. The United States has once again violated its obligation by launching and continuing large-scale military attacks against Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity, including attacks on installations in the southern cities of Iran and several Iranian islands in the Persian Gulf on 7th and 8th of July. These renewed attacks constitute another flagrant violation of Article 2 of the Charter and material breach of the Paragraph 1 of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, under which the United States expressly committed to cease all military actions against Iran and to refrain from the threat or use of force. The United States bears full international responsibility for all legal and political consequences arising from its unlawful action. Under the Islamabad MOU, responsibility for maritime navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, including its reopening and all necessary demining operations, rests exclusively with Iran. Any attempt by external actors to interfere with or establish parallel arrangement would violate the MOU, undermine its implementation, delay the restoration of normal commercial navigation, jeopardize maritime safety, and increase regional tensions. In light of the United States' persistent and ongoing violations of the international obligation, Iran recalls the responsibility of the Secretary General and Security Council under the UN Charter to maintain international peace and security. These responsibilities are especially important in cases of aggression, breach of the peace, and threat of international peace and security. They must take effective and decisive measures to stop the United States' unlawful act of aggression. They must prevent any further escalation. They must also ensure that the United States fully honors its obligation and is held accountable for its aggression, its serious violation of international law, and the crimes resulting from those acts. Iran remained committed to the faithful implementation of Memorandum of Understanding, provided that the United States fully and faithfully complies with its own obligation. However, should the United States continue to violate its obligation under the MOU, Iran will no longer be bound to fulfill its obligation under the MOU. I thank you. Thank you.